Today in the news, we got Asus firing some shots in two directions. What's up guys, I'm Snows and this is your boot sequence. Ryzen 3000 came with a brand new chipset, X570, and we got a whole lot of motherboards available with it. Almost too many to review. Anandtech did a huge roundup with over 35 motherboards tested from Asus, MSI, Gigabyte, Asrock, Colorful, and Biostar, but their conclusion was pretty simple. It depends on personal preferences, and I agree. The size, the number of M.2 slots, the USB ports, the Ethernet, and so on and so forth are all factors that will help you determine which boards you'll want to purchase. Heck, the color scheme might make a difference. I remember buying a white motherboard specifically for a white build that I did a few years back. But one of those companies seems to think that they have the upper hand, and that company is Asus. They released marketing slides for their X570 motherboards claiming that MSI and Gigabyte boards were inferior in a few aspects. Gigabyte and MSI were understandably pretty pissed about that and complained to Papa AMD, who then reached out to Asus, and well, the slides now disappeared, but videocards.com was able to snag a copy of it from the El Chapuza Informatico website before it was taken down. So let's take a look. On the first slide, you can see their emphasis on power delivery design. It shows that they are using driver MOSFETs in a 12+2 config versus 8+4 for the MSI board. They show that they have more PCB layers and that their Wi-Fi and max DRAM OC is better. Oh, and they're also showing that they have a DisplayPort output. You know, in case you want to put your Zen Plus APU in a $200 motherboard and have two display outputs. Yeah, that makes sense. They then compared thermals, and it does look like the VRM temps are better on the Asus board, up to 20 degrees cooler in fact, and they attribute that to the higher PCB layer count. Now, I don't want to be a naysayer, but VRM temperatures can be easily controlled if you got proper airflow in the case. Also, since they make use of a water cooler there and we can't really see the rest of the case, I think there might be some lingering heat right there. Then they show how much better their driver MOSFET fare without a heatsink, because of course that's something you plan on doing when you buy a PC, right? Just plop those heatsinks right out and smell the burning PCB flavors. They also took shots at the RAM and PCIe slots because they use solder to hold them down, whereas the other companies use plastic tabs. I mean, sure, it is a stronger bond, but if you put so much shear force on your slot that they bend or rip out, you might want to consider letting someone else build that computer for you. And lastly, they compared I/O, with most of the boards being on equal footings except for the USB 3.2 Gen 2 ports. I could go on and on about those slides, but I'll just leave a link so that you could check it out for yourself. Now, even though I really don't like the marketing, they do have a point though. All those things that Asus pointed out are advantages in some ways, and since Asus is actually comparing their motherboards to other similarly priced ones, I do have to give it to them. Driver MOSFETs, and by the way, the difference is that driver MOSFETs, or DRMOS, are a combo of driver and MOSFETs in one component instead of having them split on the board like on the MSI and Gigabyte ones, but driver MOSFETs are better than split MOSFETs and drivers. A higher PCB layer count does increase durability, and it might help with thermals, and the I/O on these boards is rich in comparison to the two others that were compared. Now, I'm not going to look at every single board from every single manufacturer, but this just shows that you should take your time and compare all of the boards in your price range before making a decision, because you might miss out on one with better features. Oh, and Asus, don't think that putting X's in the names won't make us recognize the brand. I mean, you even left MSI written right under the MXL, and you've made no efforts removing the logos. Anyways, moving on, there was pretty much nothing else interesting in the news, so let's go through some comments on the last video. If you've missed it, you can click right here to take a look at it. So this one is saying, user benchmark is totally reasonable here, you know, because newer games are optimized for single core performance only. They had to adjust their metrics. What do you mean? Did you even... Oh, okay. Yeah, I get it. Then we have this comment. Why do companies submit Geekbench results of their engineering samples? Well, most of the time, it's not the actual companies like AMD or Intel that do it, but a motherboard vendor who leaks it by mistake. I'm gonna put mistake in quotes here. We can't know for sure, but like Marc Turcotte replied, there is a high likelihood that this had marketing hype written all over it. Another use could be rumors and expectation correction. Remember when we all thought that Ryzen 3000 would have hit 5 GHz? Well, by strategically releasing those benchmarks here and there, it kind of reset the expectations of the consumer before the release. By constantly seeing them pop up at lower than 5 GHz, our expectations got lower, and it kind of softened the blow once AMD released the actual Ryzen CPUs. Anyways, guys, I personally really like doing this comment section segment, and it adds some information into the episode. You guys responded to it favorably in the community tab, which I plan to use more often, so if you got something you want me to discuss, and if I can do it in a few words, put it in the comment section. As usual, you can click right here to see the latest video right here, to subscribe to the channel. Stay frosty, my dudes, and I'll see you on the next one. Oh, my foot slipped. Ow! Ow! My